7th heaven. Gangsta. All right, here we go. Football Friday. Sports Bet betting insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Friday, September 7th. I'm at Real Sports Bet on Twitter. He's at Teddy_covers. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. We'll run through the NFL coming up. Another easy winner with the play of the day. Falcons, Eagles under. Opened 47.5, closed 44. And you could have grabbed plus 5.5 on the Falcons or 5. I know someone put 100,000 on them at plus 4 a couple weeks ago at the South Point here in Vegas. It went to Atlanta -1. You got a great number. Didn't matter. A huge 2-point conversion. Somehow, Foles, who throws for 120 yards, the Eagles still win the game, as we talked about on the preview, Teddy. For whatever reason, that stadium is a house of horrors for Ryan, and certainly the horrendous play calling by Sark didn't help.
Yeah, and you know, the books did very well on the side for this ballgame. As you mentioned, it was all Atlanta money, basically from the get-go, and it didn't change even on game day. The money for the Falcons continued to come in, so books absolutely cleaned up on the side here. Total-wise, they lost, obviously, with the money coming in on the under, and the under cashing with relative ease. And look, the game came down to, I mean, one, it was ugly. There was there were more penalties than points in the first half, and almost as many in the second half. Neither team efficient in the slightest offensively, but Philadelphia was better in terms of executing in the red zone. Atlanta just 1 touchdown on 5 red zone opportunities, and the red zone failures ended up dooming them on the last possession of the game. And frankly, they shouldn't have even been in that spot. The Falcons were the better team last night, and they lost the game and failed to cover the number.
Yep. The ESPN Stats and Info tweet, Matt Ryan is 1 for 20, targeting Julio Jones in the end zone the last 2 seasons, including the playoffs. And it was wild that it was the same ending in the same end zone like the playoff game. And Matt Ryan, I mean, they had 12 points. The only touchdown was set up on a turnover on a short field. Last year in the playoffs, 10 points. The only touchdown was an 18-yard drive off a fumbled punt. And 2 years ago, they scored 15 points on the road against Philly. And once again, Julio was great, but no one else did anything and had more than 30 yards receiving as they go down. And second and goal from the 1 on the first drive, Teddy, they don't cash in as well. This is a bookmaker at the South Point. Last night's game was the biggest opening week 1 decision he can remember. Asked if it would have been the worst decision ever for a week 1 game had the Falcons scored at the end. He said, without question, people still would have been cashing tickets today.
Oh, no, I agree wholeheartedly. But when we look at the matchup here, and particularly the matchups over the last 2 seasons, it's been Sark versus Schwartz, the Falcons offense coordinator versus the Philly Eagles defense coordinator. And it's a mismatch. When you look at how Philadelphia defended Atlanta in the red zone, all right, where they were able to get pressure, rushing 4, and they dropped 7 every time. And it wasn't like there was something they were doing different. It was like, this is what our defense is going to do. Figure out how to beat us. And Sark, didn't happen. I mean, the play calling, not creative. Let's put it down. Not that the Eagles' play calling was out of this world. You know, I mean, they ran the same trick play they used in the Super Bowl on their only early touchdown drive, which made a difference. But Sark versus Schwartz has been a one-way matchup. Schwartz, the Eagles' defense coordinator, has owned Steve Sarkisian.
Yes, all right. Nothing but winners the last 2.5 weeks on the show. Yesterday, we gave out Stanford USC under, and Teddy likes Michigan at home laying a big number against Western Michigan. We'll give out 2 NFL plays coming up. How about this now with the legalized sports betting, at least with Mississippi, West Virginia, Jersey, and Nevada, now players can accept comps at casinos up to $250. That's one thing that came out with this. What do you have on the Cowboys?
Sure. This one's really interesting. This is a tweet from Tard Archer, on a Cowboys beat writer, quote, "The Dallas Cowboys have become the first NFL team to have an official casino designation, partnering with WinStar World Casino and Resort in Oklahoma as an exclusive partner. The league relaxed its rules on gambling-related content, allowing teams to accept advertising money." So what does this mean? Dallas has an official, the Cowboys have an official casino. This is certainly a new source of revenue for NFL teams and something that we will see a lot more of, but we're seeing embracing on this. They're not dancing around the gambling issue anymore, Pauly. They are flat out embracing it. This is a good thing in my opinion, even though, we're hoping that the NFL doesn't do so stupid things when it comes to the integrity fees and the like.
Here we go. Steelers at the Brownies. Steelers are down to 444 the total. Weather could be a factor in this one. Roethlisberger 21-2 career against Cleveland. Who knows what's going to happen with Bell? He's supposed to report tomorrow if he gets on the field. In any event, Hugh Jackson, as head coach of the Browns, is 0-30 straight up on Sundays. 12-3 to the under at home. And last year, Kaiser, all the turnovers, the red zone issues. They're all saying the right things. They're taking public money. They're a liability in the future book. They trade for Landry. They acquire Taylor. We'll see if Gordon gets on the field, what's going to happen there, how solid the defense can be. I'm interested to see this supposed up-tempo play with some rhythm and some pace offense with the Steelers and how much they'll miss Bell on Sunday.
Sure, and that's what's going on now with Pittsburgh. Obviously, the coordinators or certainly offense coordinator Todd Haley gone. He's in Cleveland now. So when we talk about the play calling, one would think the Steelers defense may have a pretty good idea of what Cleveland is going to try to do here. But
yeah.
Pittsburgh promoted their quarterbacks coach, Randy Fitchner, to offense coordinator. He's never called plays at an NFL level. The last time he called plays in a college was in Memphis back in 2006. He's saying that they're going to use an up-tempo spread system. And Ben Roethlisberger saying, this is a completely new offense. Expect to see tempo. Expect to see no huddle. So for as much as this total's been bet down, it looks like Pittsburgh's going to play fast. And when we look at Cleveland, I mean, obviously we know how bad they've been, straight up and ATS. But you look at Tyrod Taylor, he's not going to make a ton of plays downfield, but he's not going to turn the ball over. And when you look at the guys they have in space who can make noise, Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry and Antonio Callaway, and Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, they've got a lot of playmakers on offense to go along with a defense that looks absolutely loaded. Myles Garrett and Ogba and Collins and Schobert and Peppers and Ward. There's a ton of playmakers for Cleveland on both sides of the football. Of course, getting those playmakers to execute is another question entirely. But no surprise, Pauly, when you grade out the rosters, that you're seeing wise guy support for the Cleveland Browns again in 2018, just the way we saw it week after week in 2017.
I don't get it. You figure it out. 4-12 ATS the last 2 years, 1-31 straight up. And the second year in a row, the win total was bet over as well. Colts at home against the Bengals. It's down to 2.5 and 48 the total. Colts 11-1 to the under at home in conference games the last 3 years. I like the Bengals in this one, although 3.5 was available not that long ago. See if they can get Ross on the field, and he can make a difference. You had that disastrous start last year with the OC. Zampese was let go, so they have Laser for a full season. Now the reports this week that Luck is struggling in practice with accuracy, and it's not going to matter even if he's back if they can't protect him last year. Remember, Brissett took a beating as well, and the defense had all kinds of issues as well for the Colts. I'm worried about the lack of playmakers other than Hilton. And if Mack doesn't go, you got Wilkins as the running back. Remember, Turbin suspended 4 games.
Yeah, for Indy, this is a team last year. You look at what's their biggest problem. Obviously, they didn't have Andrew Luck. But they couldn't hold leads last year. They became the only team in the last 27 seasons to lose at least 7 games that they led at halftime. They had a lead 9 times at the break and went 2-7. In those ball games. They led through 3 quarters 9 times, which made the 2017 Colts the only team in the last 20 years to hold fourth quarter leads in 9 games and finish no better than 4-12. So the issue, they couldn't make plays on offense down the stretch. They couldn't make plays on defense down the stretch. New coaching staff, obviously, with Frank Reich and company for Indy, but certainly on the defensive side of the football, that team's got a boatload of question marks. And if Luck is still struggling to find some rhythm, they're going to have a hard time against a Bengals team that really upgraded their offensive line in the offseason. At the center position, Billy Price, their number 1 pick. At left tackle, Cordy Glenn from Buffalo. Tyler Eiffert's healthy for the first time in a long time. John Ross has had a good preseason. Maybe this offense can make some noise with A.J. Green and company against what might be a fairly weak Colts defense.
Jags on the road to take on the Giants. Jacksonville 3. 42.5 the total. Bortles against Eli, and you're seeing some under money, and I missed that. I think it was 44 not that long ago. Robinson gone, Hearns gone, Lee out for the season. Who is Bortles going to throw to? Not that he's that good anyways. I would have been in the market for a new quarterback in the offseason. They gave Bortles a new deal. Remember, coming into last season, he had more wins. He had more pick sixes than wins. You got Cole, Moncrief, and Westbrook. I don't know if that's going to get it done. It's a nasty defense, and Ramsey did the world tour, ripping all these quarterbacks, and one of them was Eli Manning that he gets to face. Everything went wrong for the Giants last year. So 11-5, great defense, to 3-13, and the defense was ranked 26 in Football Outsiders. They have made some moves, but they have to prove it to me that they fixed the offensive line and addressed that. And they draft Barkley, who's supposed to be a star and going top 5 in all these fantasy drafts as well. Interesting game here, but I like the under.
Yeah, I don't blame you for liking the under. Look, we've got Blake Bortles versus Eli Manning, which is bad quarterback versus bad quarterback. I know Eli's got 2 rings. They're a long time ago now. And both of those rings are because the defense stepped up and played incredible during the postseason runs, not because Eli Manning was the difference maker. But Manning's on the tail side of his career, the downside of his career. The offensive line in front of him is loaded with question marks. I'm with you on Barkley as being nothing but, I understand you have a rookie running back who did great in college with a great quarterback running behind a great offensive line against weak defenses. This isn't that, Pat Shurmur as the new head coach, he's supposed to be doing a lot of diversity with his personnel groupings. He's going to be doing 2 wideouts, 4 wideouts, all these different sets. So it's going to be a different look for the Giants offense. But execution-wise, I'm not convinced the G-men are going to do a whole lot. But, I mean, Jacksonville last year, turnovers and injuries worked heavily in their favor. They were extremely healthy, and boy, they won the turnover battle again and again. Those are 2 areas that tend to regress towards the mean from one year to the next. You can expect more turnovers from Jacksonville, maybe less health from the Jaguars, although Andrew Norwell, the offseason guard that they signed, would make a big difference towards protecting Blake Bortles, giving him a chance at least to fire the ball downfield without screwing up with interceptions.
Fowler is suspended for Jacksonville in this one as well. Patriots at home against the Texans, 6.5, 51 the total. This was a shootout when they met last year. O'Brien went conservative, settled for the field goal 4th and short, and allowed Brady to go down the field and win the game. Brady, 19 seasons, they won the division 15 of 16 years when he was the starter. MVP, 32 touchdowns last year. Although who's catching? He's throwing to Hogan and Dorsett. Amendola gone. Edelman suspended. They got rid of Matthews. Decker retired. All these guys are gone. Who's going to catch the ball for Tom Terrific on Sunday? And this important stat, the Super Bowl loser is on a 2-15 ATS run week 1. Another loser last year with the Falcons. Week 1, they won the game, but did not cover against the Bears. So 2-15 ATS run week 1 for the Super Bowl loser. And that much maligned New England defense, can they get stops now that Superman is back? Watson back in, Watt back as well. I would throw out all the stats on the Texans once Watson got hurt, as they lost 9 of their final 10 games.
Well, yeah, I mean, Houston was an injury-riddled mess last year. They were the 4th most injured team in the league. J.J. Watt was hurt, and Whitley Merciless was hurt, and A.J. Boye got suspended, and Vince Wilfork was out, and Brian Cushing was out. And, they add Tyrann Mathieu. They add Aaron Coleman. That secondary looks really good. And this is a team that was minus 22 in sack margin last year, minus 12 in turnover margin. They're not supposed to win games with those type of numbers. That's not the case for this year, where you would expect the sack margin and the turnover margin to improve. But I still have all kinds of concerns about that Texans offensive line. They spent money everywhere except to protect their quarterback, who got knocked out for the year last year. However, it's a similar story in New England. They let Nate Solder walk to the Giants in free agency. That left them with the cheapest. They're spending less money on their offensive line than any other team in the NFL. One wonders if at some point that's going to come back to haunt them.
All right, the late games are fascinating. There's 4 good late games. I think this is intriguing. Denver at home against Seattle. Denver is 3-42.5 the total. How about this tweet from a guy who does television in Seattle? The Broncos have won 17 of their last 18 home openers, and they've also gone 13-1 over the last decade at home in the first 2 weeks of the regular season. Everything went wrong last year. Joseph's lucky he kept his job as they went 5-11. The Broncos have not had back-to-back losing seasons since the early 70s. Football Outsiders had them the worst ranked offense and the second worst ranked passing offense. Enter Case Keenum with a big deal. They have big plans for Sanders, how they're going to use him. You still have Thomas and good defense as well. Joseph on the hot seat. And at Seattle, no more Legion of Boom. They lost a lot of guys. The Penny hasn't worked out so far. Put on weight. He's been hurt. The running back. Can they? Rawls gone. Wilson gone. Jimmy Graham gone. Wilson has to be Superman as well. And they've been cutting in line to bet these Seahawks win total under here in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at this game, though, we have to ask how good is Case Keenum going to be? Case Keenum was Trevor Siemian coming into last year and coached up by Minnesota really well with, I would call it, if not one of the best, if not the best coaching staff in the league. Now he goes to Denver and says, all right, do it again. This is a career backup who wasn't any good. When we look at the Broncos, their offensive line's mediocre. You don't see the skill position talent that you're thrilled about. Say, all right, the defense has got some big-name players. Seattle's defense jettisoned a bunch of big-name players, but make no mistake about it, they still have talent. Bobby Wagner and K.J. Wright, Justin Coleman. And when you look at the drafts the last couple of years, remember, Seahawks drafted deep. That's how they built the Legion of Boom. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle's defense is a little bit underrated coming into the campaign. Of course, the offensive line still looks like a mess. Good thing they have the better of the two quarterbacks in this ballgame.
And another late game. Panthers are 42.5 at home against the Cowboys. Norv Turner, the new OC. They draft more in the draft. Yeah, no kidding. They take more in the draft. They bring in Torrey Smith. They have Funchess. They have good weapons. I think turn around Cam here after what he's done the last couple of years. They still won 11 games last year and made the playoffs. Davis has suspended the first 4 games. Can Kuechly stay healthy? Their defense did not play well in the preseason. That could be a factor. It's a different Dallas team when Sean Lee is healthy, especially defensively. But the big question is, how are they going to move the ball now that Witten retired, Dez is gone? Who's Dak going to throw to? Although it's going to be a big dose of Elliott, but you have those question marks with the offensive line with Dallas now, with what's going on with the illness, with some other guys and some injuries.
Yeah, I'm going to go real quick here because I know we're short on time. But note this: Carolina comes out of training camp, banged up offensive line. Dallas comes out of training camp, banged up offensive line. These are two teams in particular, with Norv Turner's new offense in Carolina, with Dallas and their lack of notable receiving weapons downfield. They need to run the football. With iffy offensive lines, I'm not so sure that's going to take place when these two teams meet on Sunday. No surprise, this game is taking some under money.
All right, and Sunday night, the Packers are 7.5 at Lambeau, 47.5 against the Bears. They have weapons. All right, they drafted Miller out of Memphis. They acquire Robinson. They got Trey Burton as well. Can Nagy and Trubisky make it work? And of course, they got Mack out there, and Rodney Harrison and Hicks for the Bears have said no chance that the Packers are going to be able to block this guy Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're hearing the talk from Chicago, which is what a team that can't beat their opponent over 20 years is going to do. Bottom line, Matt Nagy was Mr. Vanilla in August. The Packers really don't know what's coming offensively here. What I'm thinking is coming is that we're going to see, I'm not going to call it the Rams. Rams went from dead last in the NFL in offense to first in the NFL in points scored in a single year. Jared Goff's second season behind center with a coaching change. I'm not going to say the Bears are going to go from worst to first, but this team's got an offense this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to punch Green Bay in the mouth. We'll talk about this in Play of the Daytime in just a moment.
All right, very good. I think that's a big upgrade for Green Bay, getting Pettin as the new defensive coordinator as well. That'll help. Jones is suspended for Green Bay, so be a big dose of Williams in that game coming up on Sunday night. All right, been on fire for 2.5 weeks. Let's keep it going. Money time play of the day. I will go 4-7-2 Denver. Lane 3 at home, 17-1 run at home to start first home game, and that 13-1 run the first couple weeks of the season. That great tweet from the reporter in Seattle. I'll stick with the Broncos, and I get the Broncos 4-1 to win the division. I'll lay the 3. Throw out what happened with the Rams and Fisher. It doesn't count with Keenum. Did a great job last year. I'll lay the 3 with Denver at home.
And for my selection this week, I'm going to take the Bears. Betting number 477. Take Chicago plus the 7.5. I believe we're going to see a Chicago Bears team that might surprise some people on Sunday night. Bears plus the points. take a taste of them on the money line. Just a taste.
Wow, Jesus. There it is. All right, all the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. Sports Bit, Low Shack and the Bank coming up next. We'll recap everything on Monday. Let's stay hot. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends.